and welcome to the third episode of Nerd Outcast. I'm your host, James Campbell. With me today is my, he's my former emperor. He's sort of the past guy in charge, I guess you could say. Travis Vanderbleek.
Hello.
And joining us today, this is exciting, guys. We actually have a female on the podcast today. It's been a total sausage fest up until this point, so I'm really excited to introduce Kelsey Evans.
Howdy.
Kelsey is just a member of the club. We're glad to have her because she's awesome.
Yay!
I think all of our members are pretty awesome. So that's cool to me. So anyway, today with Halloween just around the corner and us being complete and total nerds, we do love to dress up from time to time. Me much less than others, but it is what it is. So I've asked Dravis and Kelsey to come on today to talk about one of their pastimes, and for Dravis, a source of income, costuming. Dravis, would you like to describe sort of what you do?
Yeah, I am the owner-operator of D. Vanderbleek Costumes and Props, and I do anything costume-related. I sew, I work with leather, I make masks, I cast in resin, I sculpt, make chainmail, all that stuff, and primarily sell through Etsy. So.
Okay. And what about you, Kelsey? What exactly?
I am an amateur costume maker. I've currently only have 2 costume under my belt. Well, 3, I guess, if you count my Isaiah costume that I threw together for MTAC. So, I make, this year I made a hat, and a tail, and a couple sleeves for an Umbreon costume, and I'm working on a Suika Buki costume from Toho.
Okay, cool. So, I guess that's what y'all do, costuming in a nutshell. I myself do not costume really at all. It's sort of something you do if you have some sort of income or prior expertise in, or experience, I guess, which I have 0 at the moment. Because it's always something I've sort of been interested in. It'd be kind of cool to go to a convention or something and dress up and have people take your picture. But I guess I feel that way because I'm sort of what's the word? Somebody help me out here. It's the one where I think I'm cooler than everybody else.
Hip?
No, that's not it.
But, James, you don't really need a lot of experience to get started costuming. I mean, everybody has to start somewhere, so...
Sure.
It's not like you have to go out and buy like a $400 sewing machine right off the bat.
No, and you also don't have to spend hundreds of dollars getting the absolute best fabric for it. A great place to start is Goodwill. A lot of costumes can be made pretty much exclusively from stuff that you find at Goodwill. So
I've only spent $35 on my costume, my Umbreon costume I'm working on now.
Cool.
Yeah.
So before we get too far, what is costuming, and like how would you describe it? Starting with Travis, I guess.
Costuming is if you want to be technical, costume is whatever you put on your body. Clothing is costume. But specifically when you're talking about costume, you're talking about dressing up as someone or dressing up different from the norm for some kind of a special event. There's a lot of cosplaying that goes around, which is acting as a specific character from an anime or video game. And then there's just a lot of, general costume. I want to be a rocket ship for Halloween, or a spaceman or something. So it's making yourself look cool and different than everybody else.
What about you, Kelsey?
Pretty much what Dravis said, except it also includes random TV shows, not just anime and games and stuff, but I guess that's kind of a given. I've always liked the idea of cosplaying, and also maybe the idea of getting a fursuit one day, but that's just me.
Yep.
From experience, they're hot. They're
I know they're hot.
uncomfortable.
I know. Beetle Cat is one of my favorite fursuit makers. Hers are super, like the more realistic ones. One of my favorites she's done was Ein from Cowboy Bebop. And I saw a picture of where there was the Ein Fursuiter and Ed
Hmm.
in a picture together, and it was so cute. So, for
What? Say-
fursuiting should also be included in costuming. It has a bad name, but it's actually really nice.
It's sort of like being your own mascot in a way.
They are a pain in the butt to make, also.
I know. And they're
So,
freaking expensive too.
so yeah, costuming covers a pretty broad range, and of course there's all the makeup and special effects, and that's a whole different zone with the prosthetics and stuff. But
Sure. So, I guess how did y'all get started with costuming?
well, I've always kind of been into costuming since I was little. I inherited that. My grandma would always sew my Halloween costumes, so I kind of got involved with her. And I mean, it used to be, it'd be like middle of February, and I'd get out the face paints and the stuff and dress myself up. And then I did theater in junior high and high school. And costuming is a big part of theater. That's another whole different world. Because you've got to worry about being able to change into it quickly, not fainting from heat exhaustion when you're hit by all the spotlights. There's a lot of stuff that you can't do with a stage costume. And then I got into going to conventions and cosplaying there. And then I realized that I could turn it into a business and start making money off of it. So I started doing that.
Hmm. Well, you know what to say. If you're good at something, you should never do it for free.
Yes.
I guess it's sort of more of a capitalist notion, but I guess it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, well, what about you, Kelsey? How did you start?
Mine was actually just from browsing the internet one day, and I happened to stumble upon cosplay.com and looked at some of their showcase cosplays, and I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. And so I'm like, I'm gonna try sewing this stuff. But I had actually gotten a sewing machine a couple years prior for Christmas to make like home decorations, like pillows and drapes and stuff like that. So I already knew how to sew, so it wasn't as big of a deal. I also did theater in high school, and I helped with some of the costumes and that. My middle school didn't have much of a theater program, but I've only been to one convention, so I can't really say much about cosplay scene there. But it's always been something exciting. So.
Yeah, I mean, now as for someone who wants to get started, the internet is a fantastic resource. There are boatloads of tutorials out there by a lot of professionals, a lot of people who are the best in the business, posting up exactly how they do stuff. Adam Savage from Mythbusters is a huge prop nerd. Harrison Cricks, who runs Vulpin Props, puts up tutorials for pretty much all of his stuff, step-by-step instructions. So there's a lot of resources out there for people who want to get into it.
Like, what about tools of the trade if you want to start? Like,
hot glue gun. Hot glue gun. If you're going to be doing anything with foam or with plastic or with metals, a good hot glue gun are like $15 at Hobby Lobby. Cheaper if you get the 40% off coupon. I mean, I go through like mountains of hot glue per project. And obviously a sewing machine.
Sure. What about you, Kelsey? Like,
I hand sew a lot of my stuff, actually.
Okay.
So just a good needle and some strong thread.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's another good thing to know how to do, especially if you're working with weird materials like leather or fake fur. Those are kind of a pain to put through a sewing machine. But even sewing machines can be had for pretty cheap. Goodwill or any thrift store is a good source for that. I picked up a 1920s machine. It's all steel, and I use it for sewing leather. And that was like $35. So
nice. So you've talked a little bit about like what you need to start. Like what do you use now? We'll start with Kelsey since she's more of the amateur of the two of you. So we'll start with you, Kelsey. What do you use right now?
Currently, I'm using just a needle and thread, and I have my sewing machine at home.
Okay.
So that's about it for me.
Do you feel it's adequate enough? Like to
I'm extremely content with sewing by hand. It's at the moment it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to get around with and work with quickly and pick it up and put it down. Seeing as the average college student does not usually have a lot of free time.
Sure.
So that's about it for me. I don't. It's a hobby. I'm a hobbyist, so.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. It's a nice hobby.
Sure. I mean, anything's better than like torturing wild animals or something. What about you, Travis? What I've talked to you before about this, and you seem to have some crazy setup.
Yes. Obviously, I run as a business. Hand sewing is great, and I do use it like when I do embroidery or when I'm doing finishing work. But for speed, like when you've got to get a large order out quickly, a machine's just so much faster. So I've got a sewing machine that I use for doing most basic construction. It's an older Singer. It's from the 70s. And it just does straight and zigzag stitches, and so it's just used for pretty basic stuff. I'm going to be upgrading here to a newer model that'll be computerized and also do embroidery. For doing seams, I've got a serger. It's a Brother serger. It was like they're around $300, and if you have to do a lot of sewing, they are fantastic because they stitch the seam together and finish the seam much faster than a sewing machine does, and it's all in one pass. So that's a pretty indispensable tool. Other than that, I've got my antique that I use for sewing through leather, because it'll sew through about a ½ inch of leather without a lot of effort. I've got, like I said, my hot glue gun. I've got a smaller needle-tipped hot glue gun for gluing on small details. But X-Acto knives, I use those. I've got like half a dozen sitting around down there in my workshop, and casting materials, which are there's all kinds of tools for that. For sculpting, a dental pick set is a really good place to start for sculpting, and obviously your clay, plastiline clay. They make a product called Castelline, which is a wax and clay combination that's much stiffer and harder, and correspondingly harder to work with. But it's self-supporting, so you don't need to put armatures on it when you're sculpting. So lots of different tools, and you basically just kind of pick them up as you need them, and as a project requires them. So you don't have to run out and get everything all at once.
Oh, sure. All right. So we've talked briefly about, starting and getting started and all this good stuff. Dravis, you've certainly been at this a little longer than Kelsey, so I guess for this next question, we'll have her answer first. What are some of y'all's favorite projects y'all worked on? I know, Kelsey, you've only worked on a handful, so I guess, what of those, what has been your favorite so far?
Probably my Suika costume, because it's the first time I actually legitimately cut out with a pattern and sewn, and it turned out really nice, so I'm kind of proud of it. And it's also, I have horns too that go with it, so I also first time making horns, so it's pretty exciting to me, I guess.
So who is this character?
She is a character from the Toho project.
And that is?
It's a Danmaku, Bullet Hell.
Okay.
I should have linked you beforehand. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Typically, whenever you bring up something, if it's not exactly common knowledge, go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, well, she's a drunken demon from Toho Project. She's one of the 4 mountain devas. She is very small in stature, brown eyes, long brown hair, large horns. She has kind of like a tattered white shirt and a brown leather belt and a double-layered purple skirt.
Okay.
So she carries a big purple gourd with her, and very drunk, very funny.
A gourd, you say?
A gourd, yeah. Because Onis are very fun-loving party people.
Oh.
Yep. And then Toho Project is a game of the bullet hell genre. It's one of the more popular and widely known ones, partially for more darker side of the internet reasons.
Oh.
So, but it's old. It's a good game. I enjoy it. There's, I think, 14 games out, probably more, 14 or 15, of which I think 3 are arcade-style fighters in addition to the normal bullet hell games.
Mm-hmm.
So, tons of fun.
Well, cool.
Yep.
Any more projects you want to talk about? Go ahead and talk about them all, since you only have like a few.
3. Okay, well, the one I'm almost done with now is my Halloween costume for this year, and it's an Umbreon Jijinka from Pokemans.
Mm-hmm.
I already had the dress, so I didn't have to worry about making it. It was mainly sewing together the headpiece with the ears on it, and the tail, and the sleeves for my arms, so I could have the yellow circles on the upper arms as well, and as well as my legs. So, and then the other one was just kind of one that was put together, kind of pieced together, for kind of the whole, I didn't really want to spend a lot of money to make one in the very beginning, and I'd kind of waited till last minute, but I really wanted to cosplay the MTAC. So I did a crossplay of, Izaya Orihara from Durarara. So, that was exciting, I thought. I met a lot of other people cosplaying Durarara, and there were many photo shoots and everything. Tons of fun.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
So, I heard a word there. What is a dojinka?
Jijinka. It's giving a character like human-like qualities. In Pokemon's case,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of Pokemon Jijinkas because it's very hard to cosplay an Umbreon staying super accurate without making a fursuit, which, as been stated, are very expensive, very warm, and very hard to make.
Mm-hmm.
So what people will do is they will take the tails and ears, and they will use different factors from the Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
and they will make it look like the Pokemon, if it had been a human, but still kept its, like, lesser animalistic features.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the ones I saw at MTAC were the 3 final starter evolutions from the original games.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the ears. They were wearing kind of like shorter kimonos.
Okay.
And they would have the tails that were associated with it. And so Charizard had the little Charizard horns, the tail, and had a satin red kimono. And then so on and so forth for Blastoise and Venusaur. It was very cute.
Mm.
And there was an Eevee that was like that as well. So,
Yeah, there's a particularly famous cosplayer named Jessica Negri she does a lot of model work for. She works with video game companies and stuff like that to help promote their games and stuff like that. And she famously dressed up as Pikachu. So yeah, so that's what.
yeah,
it's
that
called.
would be a Jujinka.
Sure.
I'm looking at it right now. That would be counted as a Jujinka.
Sure. What about you, Travis? What are some of your favorite projects you've worked on?
Oh boy. The thing about them is I like doing new things. So
Mhm.
whatever project comes along that makes me do something that I've never done before, or sit there for hours and scratch my head as how I'm going to do this. Specifically though, I did 2 iterations of Cloud Strife's leather armor, his harness under there, and I really enjoy working with leather. That was a very fun project. Just Final Fantasy costumes are ridiculous and almost impossible to actually wear, but there's a lot of fun details, and you really put a lot of effort into them. Outside of that, this is another Final Fantasy costume that seems to be what people want. Did a resin cast piece of shoulder armor for Lightning from Final Fantasy 13, and it's just a single pauldron. And that was fun. It was one of my first times really working with a large slush cast of resin. Slush casting is pouring a little bit of resin into the mold and swirling it around as it cures, so that you get a thin layer, versus just pouring it all in and letting it set. So those 2 are probably 2 of the more fun ones. I mean, as for stuff that I've made for myself, I have a hunter costume from Left 4 Dead that I really like wearing around, mostly because I get to have all kinds of fun growling at people and covering my face in blood. But it also has pockets, and the how nice it is to have pockets in a costume cannot be overstated.
Sure. I mean, I'll wear pajama bottoms if they have pockets just around. Like, I've joked around about I have a pair of judo pants, and I would never take them off if they had pockets because they're just so stinking comfortable. But yeah, I see what you're saying about the pockets.
That's something that's not really taken into consideration enough. Like talking about the Pokemon, is that while it's sometimes possible to make a costume accurate, especially for me when I'm looking at clients, I have to communicate with the client, make sure that they understand that if I make the costume completely accurate, it's not going to be comfortable to wear. They're not going to have good vision. They're not going to be able to move. And so if you want to do a quadruped, like an Umbreon who looks kind of like a small black cat, I guess, making like a quadruped suit is doable, but it's very uncomfortable for the wearer, and it's also very hot and stuff. So,
and usually stuff like that has to be done in teams. Like if the fursuit, like if somebody wants to fursuit or something like that, they usually have to have a handler, which means someone to, yeah. Because there are these things called glompers at cons. They forget about certain little rules of etiquette when dealing with fursuiters and stuff, because they have a very limited line of vision, which usually only precedes maybe like your normal line of vision minus like 3 inches forward. So it's very uncomfortable, and people can be taken very aback if all of a sudden they're just standing there acting out their part and posing, and then suddenly somebody just comes up out of nowhere and glomps them from behind. They're very thrown off because sudden force unprepared for from some random direction.
So what is glomping?
We'll call it a tackle hug.
Oh, okay, I see. That makes sense. I was like, what is glomping?
Yeah, there's usually a running start associated with it.
Yeah.
Glomps usually include a jump too.
Yeah. My first costume that I ever wore to a convention was Bato from Ghost in the Shell, and it's a pretty easy costume. I had kind of long hair at the time, bomber jacket, and it was pretty simple to put together. But the eye prosthetics he has artificial eyes, and they're small tubes that kind of jut out from his skull. So I took some plastic tube, cut it to shape, rounded down some sunglass lenses, and glued them in place, and spirit gummed them, which is a adhesive used to glue prosthetics and things to your skin. Spirit gummed them to my eyes, basically, and it looked great, except I was looking through dark sunglasses that fogged in a convention center, and couldn't see anything in front of me, and could basically see 5-10 degrees out of either eye. So that I had to have a friend help be my handler, because I had a very difficult time just moving around,
Sure.
And not running into doors and things like that. So
yeah, and getting back to like the making the whole suit versus like just like a dojinki. I think for me at least as an onlooker, I think it's a little bit more interesting to have sort of a different representation of what you're dressing up as. Like with the Pokemon example, like with the kimonos. I think that's a little bit more cool than that. Like a kimono, like you're sort of adding your own style and sort of your own little artistic vision to the whole costume. Like if you're just dressing up like a Snorlax or something like that, you're just like this big like black balloon or whatever. It would look a little ridiculous, and it would be kind of unwieldy in a way. So I think like sort of piecemealing sort of a costume together is a little more interesting in terms of interpretation.
yeah, I mean, there's some costumes where you're wanting to go for accuracy, and then there's sometimes where there's a lot of kind of putting your own spin on things, and just kind of taking a general idea, and that goes for all costumes. Back before Arkham Asylum and Arkham City came out, and we had the Nolanized Harley Quinn. there was someone who did the Heath Ledger Joker, and then they had a version of Harley Quinn who was much more in line with Nolan's stuff. And this was before that. They had just kind of taken some of the things that you associate with Harley Quinn from Batman and grunged it up a bit. So yeah, there's a lot of room to do that with most of the costumes, and it adds a lot of variety to the costuming scene. When you're at a convention and there might be 10 or 15 of a character, it's kind of neat to see 2 or 3 that are kind of their own spins on it.
And like if you're especially if you're dressing up as a cartoon character, you have costumes that are you're trying to represent a very Technicolor sort of popping sort of costume or whatever. Like in a cartoon, it works because everything is sort of this weird sort of bright color scheme most of the time. But if you're in the real world, it just looks a little weird. Like sort of like getting down to earth a little bit more and like sort of doing your own thing and sort of reinterpreting that to better fit a more realistic style is I think it's a plus. I mean certainly you can make a more true to form sort of costume and have it work, but I think you can't really go wrong if you sort of do your own thing and make it awesome.
Yeah, and Kelsey's probably run into this. The biggest issue with making stuff from cartoons is it's very difficult to tell what sort of fabric you should be using, because they don't put a lot of effort generally into fabric textures, and it doesn't flow or behave like anything in real life. When I was making a Kamina cosplay from Gurren Lagann, he's got this big cape and these very large kind of silly glasses that are just magically attached to his face. I had to sit and think about how I wanted the cape to be, because it's just this kind of red thing on the screen, and it doesn't show is it a rough texture, is it like a canvas, or is it a silk, is it more of a velvety. And so that's something that you really have to think about when you're, kind of putting your own spin on the characters. So.
Sure. So, moving on, I guess. Well, for is there any more projects you want to talk about, like your favorite projects, Travis? That maybe I don't know.
I mean, I can go on for a while, but none that really stick out. They just all have their own little idiosyncrasies.
Cool. So I guess we'll look into the future now. I guess any upcoming projects that you guys might be working on right now or want to work on in the future, like the near future. Kelsey, we'll go with you first.
I saw a really interesting crossover between the Evolutions and Team Fortress 2, and so that may be on like the upper part of my list of things to do when I go with a big group of people to a convention. Like they had Embryon as the sniper, Evie was the spy, because she can go into anything.
Sure.
Umbreon was the demo man.
True.
They didn't have one necessarily labeled for the pyro, but it shows fire coming out of it, so it makes me believe it's a Flareon. But
True.
Seeing as it doesn't have a tail, Emporion was the Engie. That was super cute. One of my favorites, I think. Leafeon the medic, Flareon the soldier, Jolteon the scout. Glaceon was actually the heavy, which is kind of odd, but
Cool.
that's one of the one that I'm kind of excited to do. I think would be fun.
That loud squeaking you'll hear throughout the podcast is Travis's pet bird.
Yes, Sketchbird.
Sketch.
So.
Hey, we hear you. We're there. Well, cool. I guess the question is though, Kelsey, what hats will you be bringing along with these costumes? Because you got to have like
1,000,001 hats.
Sure. I mean, and maybe you got to you got to trade them with people too. I mean, you could probably can walk away with some cool hats. Sure.
Team Fortress 2. There's a lot of Team Fortress 2 cosplay. It's very popular.
Sure. I mean,
it's easy to do, actually.
I mean, with Team Fortress, you've got all these cool character designs, so it's really easy to find one you really resonate with and sort of go with. So.
And they're super easy to pick up pieces for at like Goodwill and stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Shane, one of our friends, is doing the Red Spy, and he said he got most of his costumes at Goodwill, and then I made his mask.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
Awesome. What about you, Dravis? Any upcoming projects you're working on right now? Or?
Well, I mean, whatever I get as commissions, that just kind of comes out of nowhere. I personally wouldn't have done any of my Final Fantasy stuff, but you know, it's what people ask for. So, I'm not sure on that front. But for myself, I'm working on a Slender Man costume, and that is way more intensive than I had originally planned. I've got the tentacles partially mocked up here. I've got to put wires in them so I can make them bend and flex, and then they've still got to get coated in latex. And I've got to build the stilts. I'm going to be up on 1.5 stilts, and then I've got to sew the whole costume and get my mask made. And this is going to be another one of those costumes where I'm not going to be able to see or breathe or hear or anything. So I'm gonna have to have handlers. So I'm looking forward to getting more work on that after Halloween's over. I'm a little bit swamped right now. Oh, and the Borderlands mask. I'm making a Psycho mask from Borderlands.
Cool.
And that's a really fun project to work on. It's nice to have sculpting projects where I don't have to work with fabric. Most of my Etsy sales come from fabric sales. Like selling med kits from Left 4 Dead seem to be the big sellers. So I get kind of sick and tired of stitching stuff together after a while.
Sure. Well, cool. Like I've been wanting to, for me, like if I ever want to start with something simple. I've always wanted to dress up as Luffy from One Piece, and it's probably one of the easiest things you could ever dress up as.
That'd be a good one though.
Yeah. Just gotta find. See, I'm not very technically proficient in any sort of craft making, so it's I gotta find the right hat and the right shirt, and I can just sort of like unmake a shirt and sort of. But yeah, I've always liked Luffy. I like Zoro too. So that's a great show. I get a lot of crap for talking about it a lot with my friends. So I was like, frick, I wanna. At some point, Dravis, we need to work on a kid costume from Bastion, because that's one of the big things with that costume is finding a gear of appropriate size and orientation.
I can make one. That's actually
sure. I mean,
that's not actually the hardest part for me.
Well, I mean, like for me, it was always about finding the pieces to make it, and like you can't find a gear like an industrial gear, because usually they're all like either cast iron or steel or whatever, and they all weigh like
in cost.
It's like it's like a barbell, strapped to your back.
No,
so.
I'd use blue insulation foam for that. Probably 2 layers to get the thickness right. Cut out the shape and then coat it with a gap filler like Bondo or something to get it smooth, and then paint it.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely it. That's definitely a character you could sort of do your own thing with, because it is sort of the graphics in Bastion are really sort of very stylized, and it leaves a lot to fill in, because the characters in Bastion are a little disproportionate to actual human beings. So you got some room to play around with. So.
Yeah, and that makes it a little bit tricky when you're trying to size up costume pieces. Like World of Warcraft is terrible.
Oh, sure.
Because they've got these massive pauldrons that look reasonable on the game characters, but if you try to make them to scale, you just look like a little kid, this brutal armor on. So
yeah, sure. See, those are things I definitely want to get into. As if I ever do get a job and some income, I gotta look into that. I think, because Kid is just kind of awesome.
That whole game is just all sorts of awesome.
I agree. We'll have to have a whole podcast just dedicated to Bastion, because it is an incredible game. But yeah, I guess stemming off from that, what are some like dream projects y'all want to do? Like if you had like a large amount of resources at your disposal, like if money was not such a big issue, and you had, I don't know, maybe some assistants and stuff like that, what would you make?
Well, personally, I want to make the power loader from Aliens, because that thing is just so absolutely cool. And the other one is, and her name is escaping me right now. She is the Zerg queen from StarCraft. Kerrigan.
Kerrigan, yeah.
That's it. I would love to do a full body Kerrigan cosplay on somebody, but I would need to have a model who's willing to sit there for the hours and hours and hours and hours it takes to apply that kind of prosthetic work.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe you wouldn't want to dress up like her? You wouldn't want people?
Not her. I've thought about cross-playing. Cross-playing is when you play you wear a costume of of the other gender. I've thought about cross-playing as Samus Aran from Metroid.
Sure.
Because that costume's a really well-done costume. So.
Sure. What about you, Kelsey? Any dream projects?
I can't think of the name, so
Describe
I can't
it.
think. I'm trying. Hold on. Actually, I would really like to do probably a character from one of the summons from Final Fantasy. Actually, would probably be one of my big ones.
Okay.
Which
one?
I really like the I'm trying to put my words together. I really liked Shiva from Final Fantasy X.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, she was very pretty, but that would be very nice to do. Very extensive wig work.
Ugh, wigs.
Because of how I was trying to, but unlimited resources. So I mean, I think it'd be pretty. And another one would probably be one of the art book costumes of Princess Sakura from Tsubasa Chronicles, because they have a lot of She is because it's clamp. They're very disproportioned, and their clothes as to character ratio are ridiculous. Like, her dresses are twice the length as she is tall, and they're usually very poofy. But poofy dresses are nice. I think they're pretty. So it would be very hard to do and would contain a lot of fabric in it. But her dresses usually turn out super pretty. So that would be another favorite cosplay to do, in my opinion.
So y'all mentioned wigs. What is this distaste of wigs? I must hear about this.
For me, number one, I haven't taken any like beauty school or barber styling stuff. They're a pain in the butt to style. Just because once you cut, it's gone, and styling hair is completely different than sculpting something. And number two, I don't like wearing them. They make your head hot. They tend to slide around unless you pin them in place a bunch, and they're just kind of a pain.
Itchy. So itchy.
And
on top of that, a lot of wigs are synthetic, so they like to act a lot different than normal hair. So dyeing and styling itself is a completely different bear to tackle, because a lot of stuff won't stick to wig hair as it would normal hair.
Yeah, like you can't use hair gel. You have to use basically white glue, like Elmer's white glue, to get things to stay in place. If you're going to use a curling iron, be very careful, because you'll probably melt it all over everywhere. And they're not cheap. The good-looking ones, they're like $40 a wig, plus the time. Then you've got the time and effort you got to put into making it look right. So, I'm not a fan. I like masks and hoods and things, so I don't have to wear a wig.
It's one of the things that sort of bothers me when I do look at cosplay, because like I'm not the biggest sort of I guess consumer of cosplay. I mean, if a website puts up like a highlight reel of some convention they went to or something like that, and they put up the cosplay there, like one of the things that really gets me, like that really sets apart a good cosplay from a bad one is the hair, and it's sort of that, like especially with like Japanese characters from animes and video games and stuff. Their hair is crazy. It's all over the place and what have you. And so it's like to get that down and make it look legitimate is kind of it seems to me it would be a challenge for a costumer. I mean, because like how do you make Cloud's hair look like legitimate without it?
Lots of glue.
Sure. I mean, I saw one guy. I remember like it was just like it was like really glossy paper or something like that, like a magazine like paper. It was just sort of everywhere. I was like, it looks a little ridiculous. It doesn't look anything like it, but I mean, it's hard to fault somebody for something like that. But like, so for me, it would be like if I ever wanted to dress up as something, I'd have to have the hair for it. I couldn't just I couldn't wear a wig. Like that'd just be like the spirit of the dressing up for me would be lost if I didn't have the actual.
And for me, you start to kind of assemble this, like Batman's rogues gallery of all the costumes, and wigs are kind of a pain to store because you have to have in order to do it properly, you really need to have a wig head, which is just a styrofoam head, for each of them. But that takes up a lot of room. The fabric parts of the costume I can just kind of hang. And any of the like resin armor, I can just kind of set in a box. But the wigs have to, stay on a head in order to keep their shape and to stop them from getting destroyed. So they take up a lot of space. Everybody should just draw bald characters from here on out.
Sure. I mean, that's one thing we could take away from Western game design is all the characters are bald, and it's glorious. It's short hair.
Easier on your computer.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Cole McGrath and that guy from Gears of War. Marcus Phoenix, that's his name. Go me! Well, we're getting close to our 45-minute self-imposed time limit here, so any other closing thoughts about costuming or whatever, anything you want to leave with the prospective listeners?
If you want to do it, the best way to get started is to get started. I know it's a little bit daunting, especially because materials are not super cheap all the time. Fabric especially is... you look at it and you're like, oh, it's only $5 a yard, but then you realize you're going to need 6-7 yards to get a costume done. And that's reasonably cheap fabric. So, but again, if you go to Goodwill, if you can find a shirt that's pretty close, or if you can find a dress that's almost right, and then just buy some extra trim or some different colors of fabric and kind of alter it. That's a really good way to kind of get your feet wet, and get into it. It's a lot of fun. So.
What about you, Kelsey?
Don't get in over your head with your first project.
So start small.
Yeah, don't necessarily start small. I mean, be ambitious, but don't start like, I want to make a Gundam suit and expect it to look beautimous.
Yeah, I would,
So,
on that note, I would recommend doing something cool that you can be proud of, but don't, like Final Fantasy costumes, there's just little details everywhere and all over the place. It's probably a better idea to start with a costume where most of the costume is simple, and they just have one or two key pieces that you can really put your energy into and get something cool out of. So that you're not, because you always are going to underestimate how long it's going to take you to do the costume. And no matter when you start on the costume, you're going to be working on it up to the day before the convention. That's a rule. It always happens. And it's really nice to just have those key pieces to focus on instead of having to focus on the entire thing, because it's a little bit overwhelming.
and if you really want to cosplay something from Final Fantasy, try the White Mage from Final Fantasy 1. It's just a white robe with red triangles on it.
And try to pick a costume that has pockets.
Hey, you could put pockets on the inside of that too. It's perfect.
Exactly.
I know what I'm doing next.
You could put stuff in the sleeves.
I know. Oh, on sleeves, may I be random for a minute?
Go for it.
Okay. There's a breed of dog called a Pekingese. Very fluffy, very snub-nosed. Kind of look like a pug, where they kind of ran into the wall. Chinese emperors would store them in their sleeves because they were imperial dogs. So they would walk around with doggies in their sleeves all day.
I like your
Interesting.
sleeves.
There's nothing up my sleeve. Oh wait, that's a dog.
Get him, Rufy!
That should be,
I'm
if they ever do another Assassin's Creed, that should be an upgrade to the arm blade.
Sure.
It's fire dog.
They need to set one in Imperial Japan. They were talking about it for a while.
And one other note, since Halloween is coming up, a very, very easy costume to make is a zombie. You probably either have clothes that you don't care about, or you can go, buy them from a thrift store for a couple dollars. A little bit of sandpaper, get some acrylic paint, browns and kind of greens, and mix it together, water it down, and splash it. That works better than like actual mud or dirt. It smells better too.
But then you can't be authentic.
And the real secret though is the fake blood. The stuff they sell in the stores is either very expensive or terrible or both. And the secret recipe for fake blood is corn syrup. The clear corn syrup, K-Rose syrup, that's used for candy making. It's reasonably cheap. Red food coloring. If you can get really concentrated stuff, like powdered red dye 40, that's even better. And then the extra secret ingredient is cocoa powder. That makes it opaque, it makes it a little bit darker, and when it dries it gets this nice like crusty brown dried blood look to it. And it also makes it taste better. It tastes like Hershey syrup that way. So, and then you just water it down with water to the consistency that you're looking for. So if you want to splash clothing with it, get it pretty liquidy. If you just want to put it on your face or something, it's best to leave it as a gel. So.
Well, awesome. I think we're about to wrap things up here. Just a few announcements before we let you all go. If you're listening to this and you're in the App Club, as the Alpha Sci-Fi Club here at Tennessee Tech University, we have our yearly party thingy for Halloween. So you should totally come and dress up. Maybe use some of these tips that we've gotten from Kelsey and Dravis. We normally do a costume contest, and there's usually some sort of prize involved. Is that right, Dravis?
Oh yes. I will be providing prizes. So
awesome. So that's coming up, and remember that we also have our movie outing next week. Well, I guess it would be the same week as Halloween. I believe we're going to have it on Sunday, the 4th. I believe is the Sunday coming up. So be sure to keep that in mind as well. So for Dravis Vanderbleek and Kelsey Evans, I'm your host James Campbell. Please, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please rate and subscribe. That would be awesome. And maybe leave a comment if you're feeling awesome. And other than that, please keep listening, and we'll keep making them. So, for the Nerd Outcast, I'm James Campbell, and I'll see you next time.